Hey y'all, welcome to lesson 1.4, better known as the lesson where we actually start talking about chemistry and matter and things like that. It is just a brief introduction. Um, First of all, like I have said many times, the answer to the question, what is chemistry, is basically it's the study of stuff. Uh, the scientific word for stuff is matter. Hopefully, you remember from previous science classes that matter is basically anything that occupies space and has mass. So it has a volume, it takes up space. It doesn't have to be a lot of space, but it does take up space, and it also has mass. So there is some, even again, if it's a little, um, there is some mass to the object. Those two things make it matter. Two general types of matter, pure substances and mixtures. We'll get into those definitions here in a minute, but mixtures, pure substances are the two general classifications of matter. Um, as you know, matter can exist in three states: solid, liquid, gas. They're the main ones. Actually, there are two others that are, some people not believe in them. Some people consider them different states of matter. Some people don't. But we'll talk about those in actually the next lesson. But three common states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Um, the last thing you need to know generally about the definition of matter is it has physical properties and chemical properties, and it can undergo physical changes and chemical changes, which again, in a previous or in a future lesson, we will talk about those in much more detail and define those terms. For now, it's just good enough to know that they do exist. Hopefully, you'll remember a little bit of them from previous classes, but matter has physical, chemical properties, um, and goes through physical and chemical changes. Let's come back up here and talk about, remember I said there's either two pure substances or mixtures. Let's define what those are really quick. First of all, pure substances um, can be broken down into two different types. They are either elements or compounds. An element is a substance that cannot be broken down further. That is what is on the periodic table. So, an element, an atom of gold, is gold, regardless. You can't make it anything else. It is gold. Um, an atom, like, is the smallest particle of that element. So you can't get any smaller piece of gold than an atom of gold. Or to pick any element: iron, lithium, sodium, oxygen, hydrogen, helium, whatever. Um, but an element is a pure substance. It is one thing, can't be broken down any further. The smallest particle is an atom. The other type of pure substance that we have is a compound. A compound is something that can be broken down into elements, um, and that would be something like water. So here we have water. All of the molecules are water. All of them are put together the same way, which is what makes this a pure substance. Everything in the water is water. Two hydrogens, one oxygen, water. Um, so that makes it a compound. It can be broken down into oxygen and hydrogen. So you can take apart water molecules and then you have a bunch of oxygen and a bunch of hydrogen. It's a very difficult process, by the way. It's not something we could just do in class. If we could, we would. Anyway, water is a compound, a pure substance. It's just water, but it can be broken down into smaller pieces. The other type of matter is a mixture, and a mixture is made up of two or more pure substances. So you add Kool-Aid to your water, then you have a mixture because you have water, you have sugar, you have the flavor packet, whatever that Kool-Aid stuff is, right? So that would be a mixture, or like it says here, tap water, because there's all sorts of minerals and stuff in the water that comes out of the tap. It is not pure water. It has other stuff in it. But a mixture, even sweet tea, that's a mixture, right? You got the water, you got tea, you got sugar, whatever else you put in there, coffee, sugar, creamer, whatever. Mixtures can be separated by physical processes. So you don't need a chemical. Remember, I said separating the hydrogen and oxygen is a chemical process that we don't really have the tools for in this lab. But mixtures can be separated fairly, well, maybe not fairly easily, but by physical processes. You don't need a chemical anything to do that. Right, like with your Kool-Aid, you evaporate out the water, you still have the sugar and the Kool-Aid pieces. Or if you just have tap water, use a filter. The water goes through, the minerals don't, right? So that is mixtures. Anyway, just general introduction to stuff. It can be broken down into two main groups, pure substances and mixtures. And we will talk about them in more detail in future lessons.